Hello folks, Everchanger here, and welcome back to more Pokemon Crystal. Last time, all sorts of cool stuff happened. First off, we hatched our beautiful Shiny Elekid. Oh, I am so happy to have you. And we also earned our third gym badge, the Plain Badge. This time, we are going to be exploring a little bit north of Goldenrod City, but first things first, you will notice that it is nighttime. And since we have the time to do this, I figured it would be fun to show Buena's password. Buena here, today's password. Let me think. It's bug. Don't forget it. I'm in Goldenrod's radio tower. Alrighty, so the password for this is bug. I mentioned Buena's password a couple of episodes ago, but I wasn't able to show it off because I recorded that episode in the daytime. But since it is nighttime, we are going to come over here and we are going to check in the fact that we have watched the show, just so I can demonstrate what it's all about. Hi, did you tune into my radio show? Do you remember today's password? Absolutely we do. Oh wow, thank you. What was your name again? David, okay. Come on David, join the show, and I actually get to be on the show. Everyone ready? I want to hear you shout out today's password for David. It is bug. Yippee, that's right! You did tune in, I'm so happy. You earned 1 point, congrats! And we get a point on our blue card. Yep, our contestant was David, thanks for coming. I hope you all listeners will come too, I'll be waiting. Very, very cool. It's just a fun little thing that was added in Crystal and I'm pretty sure is also in the remake. Just a really fun little thing that makes the world seem a little bit more alive. Anyway, with that, we are going to be heading out this way if I can get past this girl. There we go. Alright, also, first things first, I want to show this building right here because it will become relevant pretty soon. Blooming Beautiful Flower Shop. Head on inside, and we have this girl. Have you seen that wiggly tree that's growing on Route 36? Actually, we have. My little sister got all excited and went to see it. I'm worried. Isn't it dangerous? Well, now we have our motivation to head out that way, because maybe it is dangerous and the little sister might need a little help. I'm going to point out the guard on the left here does have something for you, but we can't complete it until a little bit later, so I'm going to be skipping it for the time being. Not for very long, though. A strange tree is blocking the road. It wriggles around if you talk to it. I heard it became wild when someone watered it with a squirt bottle. Interesting stuff. Definitely worth keeping in mind. Anyway, this here is Route 35. Very nice. And we've got quite a few trainers here. Are you going to the gym? Me too. Well, it depends on what gym you're referring to, young lady, because I've already been to the one to the south. Unless there's another gym that you know about. Anyway, she has a Vulpix, and as you might imagine, I have switched Elekid out into the front, because I think it needs to get a little bit of training. So we are going to be doing that switcheroo tactic I mentioned, because as you all probably know, it is very, very late in the game that we are going to be getting a hold of our experience share, which is really, really unfortunate. So we're just going to have to work with it. Anyway, Route 35 right here is home to one new Pokemon. It is extremely rare though, so keep that in mind. It is Yanma, or Yanma, depending on how you pronounce it. I honestly go back and forth, which might bother some of you, and I do apologize. But I do have to say, even though it's extraordinarily rare, it's pretty darned useless in this game. Unfortunately, it does not get its evolution of Yanmega until much later in the series, and here it's just not present at all. So it's really not a Pokemon worth going after. It's just not all that great. And, oh good. Hi David, how are you? I found a useful item shopping, so I bought it with your money. Sorry, it's in your PC. You'll like it. You know what? I'm just gonna go check that now. Let's see here. I put a bunch of stuff in here. It looks like what she bought us is a repel. That means we have saved 4,000 Pokemon dollars with our mom, and she just spent 270 of it to buy this repel. Very nice. Alright, we are back on Route 35, and we have quite a few more trainers on this route. Believe it or not, this route is home to 9 trainers, which is really impressive in my opinion. For a route as small as this, I'm really impressed that they managed to cram this many trainers onto it. Because as I've mentioned many times before, the routes in Generation 2 are typically very, very, very tiny. Alright, let's switch over to Croconaw right here. And some of you might be a little frustrated that Cubone really hasn't seen much action yet in terms of battles, but it is already level 15. So I think taking the time in these battles to train up Elekid, who came to us at level 5, is probably something we should prioritize a little bit more. Although if we wind up against a Pokemon that it might have a type advantage against, it'll definitely come out if I deem it necessary to do that. Alright, we have Marrow coming out next. I'm going to switch back over to Elekid because it needs to catch up pretty quickly. Everyone else on the team is 15 or higher, and Elekid is pretty low. So I think we should get it quite a bit of leveling up. Man, that shiny animation is not ever going to get old. Man, I am so happy. I was looking at the list of Pokemon that I would have been happy with coming out of the odd egg, and I have to say, far and away, Elekid was the optimal choice for me, and I don't know why I just used Water Gun right there. Maybe I'm still in Sandshrew mode. But yeah, the fact that it's an Elekid specifically, I'm just incredibly happy about, because since Crystal is lacking in the Mareep department, Elekid is easily one of the best electric types that you could get at this point in the game, and it's going to remain a very solid choice for pretty much the entire adventure, which I'm really, really, really excited about. So yeah, I went and checked the numbers behind that, and yes, Elekid coming out of the odd egg shiny is a 1 in 50 chance, which is really crazy in my mind that we managed to get that lucky. Anyway, my boyfriend's weak, so I can't rely on him. Oh, the boyfriend-girlfriend trope. I'm pretty sure we saw this back in Yellow on Route 25, I want to say. Alright, Picnicker Brook sends out a Pikachu, which is actually a pretty good matchup for Cubone. Now, I forget off the top of my head if Cubone knows a ground-type move, but we might as well switch it in, see what kind of results we can get. Go, Cubone! It's funny, I don't think people use Cubone in Let's Plays very much. I think Bone Club is ground. Nice. I feel like people just don't use Cubone in Let's Plays that much because it always shows up at really awkward points in the series. Well, in the game, rather. I'm talking in YouTube terms, and man, that did a lot of damage. But it's funny, in Crystal, it shows up pretty early, and you can get it without much effort. But I just don't see people using it, so I figured it would be fun to try something different. So maybe people don't use Cubone because it's not the best performing Pokemon, but I think we can make it work. Like, whenever I play through a single-player Pokemon adventure, I really don't pay attention to stats and things like that all that much, because the single player is technically usually geared towards letting people use their favorites. Like, they can use pretty much anything they want. So I'm trying to approach it in that way, so I figured it would add a little bit of spark to this series because it's just a Pokemon that people don't tend to use. And it's a Pokemon I really, really like, so we're gonna give it a shot. Alright, now we got a Diglett right here, gonna Water Gun it. Now, one thing I've noticed about Generation 2 in the past is that like the back sprites are so much cleaner than they were in Generation 1, and I really don't understand why in Generation 1 they couldn't clean up the back sprites a little more. Like, the back sprites in Generation 1 are horrifically ugly for no good reason at all, because they're given like half the resolution, and on the Game Boy hardware specifically, having the resolution is a big deal, and I really don't know why they did it. And we do know it is technically possible for Generation 1 to display the better back sprites because we have people that have done graphics hacks of the original games to basically port the Generation 2 back sprites back into Generation 1. And they look fine, the game plays fine, so I really don't know why they didn't just do that in the first place. Like, the back sprites are just unnecessarily ugly. And Elekid just learned Thunder Punch, which is a really good electric-type move, especially for level 9, so that's really, really awesome. Unfortunately, up next is a Diglett, which Thunder Punch will not be useful against in the slightest, but oh well. Now, one thing I am curious about that I never bothered to look up, what type is Dizzy Punch? It is normal, okay. Part of me thought it was going to be fighting, but no, it is normal. Now, a fun fact about Dizzy Punch, it actually was in Generation 1, but it did not have the chance of inflicting confusion. So in Generation 1, Dizzy Punch was basically just like a tackle variant, give or take a couple of power points. So yeah, really odd decision there, and I'm really glad they updated it in Generation 2 to make it more unique, I guess we can say. Anyway, down goes Camper Ivan, and he gives us his money. Very nice. And up here we got a couple of other guys. I'm practicing my fire breathing. Really, sir? It's really cool seeing people breathe fire in like those performances you see in Hawaii and places like that. It's really impressive. I cannot imagine what it's like to actually do that, like the technical skill involved to make sure you don't hurt yourself. It's something I've always been very impressed by. Anyway, I'm going to send in Cubone right here because this Magmar is only level 11, so we should be okay. And yes, we are past the 3rd gym badge in this game, and we are facing a level 11 opponent. Get used to that, because the level curve in Generation 2 is pretty weird, and not necessarily in a good way. So yeah, get used to fighting enemies that are surprisingly weak given your point in the game. Although, they seem to be scaling decently well with the team. The team's about like 3 or 4 levels higher generally. Croconaw is a little bit of an exception, but we've had Croconaw the longest. But yeah, the level curve in Generation 2 is really, really wonky. They did a little bit to sort of clean it up in the remake, but it's still not all that great. So I guess it's just endemic of Johto in general to have just really odd level scaling as you go through the game. Honestly, I feel like we could probably be facing like level 17 or 18 enemies right now and still be pretty okay, so I'm not entirely sure what the motivation behind this is. But I digress, just gonna water gun this second Magmar right here, and down it goes. No level ups, but we can make things work. Ow, I scorched the tip of my nose. Yeah, you see, I have to wonder how people don't do that more often doing this kind of thing. Anyway, I am going to head back and heal off this poison, and I will be right back. And we are back. -1 poisoned Pokemon, and I want to fight you. There we go. Behold my graceful ball dexterity. Okay. Oh, the dialogue in these games sometimes, my word. Alright, we have Juggler Irwin. And he's got a whopping 4 Pokemon, which is a lot for the level 2? What? Really? Okay, this game's just messing with me now. Level 2. Really? If you didn't have evidence before that the level curve in Generation 2 is kind of weird, there you go. I think that confirms it right there. In fact, Elekid was able to get a knockout right there, even though it's relatively low leveled. Alright, level 6 versus level 11. I think we're still okay to keep Elekid in here. Yeah. Alright, how much is this tackle gonna do? Not a whole lot. I think we're pretty okay to keep fighting this Voltorb with Elekid. The more fights that Elekid can do one-on-one, the faster it will grow, so I think that is a good option for us to take advantage of. Very good. And next up is another Voltorb. Is anyone surprised that it's another Voltorb? I personally am not surprised that it's another Voltorb. Anyway, I'm going to switch back over to Cubone and make use of Bone Club, which has been proving to be surprisingly useful in this episode. I mean, I knew it would be useful, but I wasn't expecting it to be delivering this many one-shots across the board. Ugh, Screech. I hate Screech in Generations 1 and 2 because since the Game Boy uses chiptune music and sound effects, it can pull off a mean Screech, and I'm really glad they toned it down in later games because I remember being a kid just being afraid that the opponent would use Screech because it just made me physically recoil because of how sharp a sound it was. Alright, this Voltorb is level 14, which is pretty impressive. So we are going to go back to Cubone and bring it down. Ugh. It's awful. It sounds almost like a smoke detector going off. It's just a really, really terrible noise. You guys are very lucky that I drop the game audio as much as I do, because hearing that at full blast... Eeh. Alright, one more Bone Club should bring this guy down, and then we should get a nice, decent chunk of experience considering this thing's level 14. Correct? Elekid gets level 12, growing very fast this episode, which I am very, very appreciative of. Ooh, that was a jolt. I thought you were going to say something else, but maybe that's a different juggler in the game. Alrighty. Route 35. Now, right through this gatehouse right here is a place called the National Park. I am going to be going over this area, but not in this episode, probably in the next one. The main motivation behind that is basically... there's a feature in there that happens on certain days that I really would like to show, but it doesn't happen today. So we're just going to be skipping over that. Anyway, right here, danger lurks in the night. We have another cop who will again only battle us at night, so that is why I chose to record this episode when I did. Very cool. Officer Dirk wants to battle. And he sends out Growlithe. I really like Growlithe as a Pokemon. I have used it in a Let's Play in the past, and I really, really enjoyed it. Pretty much the only reason I opted not to use one this time is because I've used one in the past, and I figured it would be a little repetitive. I know I've used a Feraligatr in the past as well, but like, come on, that's my starter and the first Pokemon I ever had, period, in personal playthroughs, so I feel like you guys can give me a bit of a mulligan on that one. Like, Feraligatr line is just my favorite. I love it. Alright. Zubat got dragged out by Roar here, which is a little frustrating, but I think we'll be able to bring it down, and I'd really rather not switch again, because if it just keeps using Roar and keeps forcing me to switch again, that would get annoying real quick. So we're just going to keep Zubat in, and it seems to have worked. Not quite enough for a level up, though. Alright, next up is another Growlithe. Gonna switch in Elekid to get it a little bit more experience, and Elekid is actually catching up really quickly. Like, it's already level 12, which I think is pretty good, all things considered. Alright, gonna switch back out into Cubone, and hopefully it'll stay in this time. I'm not entirely confident that it will. Oh wow, it actually does. Very cool. Now the question is, are we faster? I have my doubts about that. Yes, this Growlithe is faster, but it is opting not to roar us out, which is interesting, considering we obviously have a type advantage against it. And down it goes, and that should land Cubone its first level up to 16, correct? Yes, very good. Alright, and that is Officer Dirk. Nighttime only trainer number 2. I believe there's only one more trainer in the entire game that is nighttime only, and I'll make sure to point them out when we get to it. You know, nighttime is fun in its own ways, but don't overdo it, okay? Now, I believe the last trainer with that, attribute is a night trainer, but they might actually be a morning trainer. I don't know. There are very few trainers in the game that actually battle you depending on times of day, and I can never keep track of them. Anyway, right here, I'll go anywhere if bug Pokemon appear there. This is a pretty special trainer, all things considered. This is Bug Catcher Arnie, and this is one of those trainers who will actually give you their phone number after you beat them. This trainer is special because he will phone you to talk about something known as a swarm, which I discussed in previous episodes, but this one is particularly special because it does a few different things, at least according to Bulbapedia, which is where I source most of my information for this Let's Play from. Basically, the idea is, when Arnie calls you to alert you to a swarm, Yanma will become considerably more common on the route. However, as a result of the game having to load in a different encounter table, something else happens. Huh? I shouldn't have lost that. Oh, poor you. My Venonat won me the bug catching contest at the National Park. Ooh, foreshadowing. Do you get the feeling that there are more rare Pokemon around? I'm positive there are. so I look all the time. If I find one, I want to share the good news with everyone I know. I know, give me your phone number. I'm not interested in this swarm, but I should explain that since the game loads in a different encounter table to compensate for Yanma's increased rate, I think as a leftover from Gold and Silver, where the encounters here were pretty different from what they are in Crystal, it will actually load in encounters for Nidoran during the swarm as well, which is really interesting. Female Nidoran will evolve into Nidorina, and male Nidoran will evolve into Nidorino. So yeah, very interesting stuff. You can find those Pokemon normally, I believe, in the National Park, so you're not missing out on much if you don't get his phone number. But I figured I would mention it all the same. Now, do you fight me or no? You do, even though you don't have your little exclamation point thing. That's interesting. What kind of balls do you use? I'm not sure I want to disclose that information. Alright, we have Birdkeeper Brian sends out Pidgey. I think this is where Thunder Punch is going to find some time to shine. Speaking of shining, oh man, I love this Elekid so much. This might just be one of my favorite Pokemon that I've ever used in a Let's Play, just because, like, it's so rare. It's like a stamp of pride, and, like, it's a freaking shiny Elekid. Like, just ignoring its rarity, like, that's awesome. Alright, and as you can see, Thunder Punch produces some great results, which I am really, really happy about. Alright, I'm going to use another Thunder Punch right there, and that should actually one-shot. Oh wow, that was close. I was hoping it would one-shot it, but oh well. Can't win them all. Alright, Thunder Punch again. And knockout confirmed, very good. Loads of experience for that. And down goes the Birdkeeper. Yikes, not fast enough. Looks like he had his wings clipped. Here we have TM04. I don't actually know what that is, so let us go check. It is Rollout. We all know what Rollout does. And right over here, believe it or not, is nothing. Seems like they would hide something right there, but for some reason they just didn't. Alrighty, heading back up this-a-way, we have a cuttable tree right here. Now, you can use this to bypass the national park entirely, and that is what I'm doing right here, but again, I would like to reiterate we will be covering the national park in more detail later. Right here, I believe we have one of the first instances of a Psychic, which is basically a fancy word of saying they'd like to train Psychic types. Not really rocket science right there. Now, we are on a new route, Route 36. Now, some of you might expect that I would take this time to go over new encounters, but I'm not. The reason for that is we have actually been on this route before. Believe it or not, this is that route where you can find Growlithe north and west of Violet City. So yeah, we have actually 100% been on this route before, and we've gone over all the encounters, and this guy is killing my accuracy. I'm just gonna switch out. Yeah, Abra really cannot do all that much. All it's going to do is basically spam Flash to lower our accuracy, and then teleport if it has teleport. Please stop. Alright, good. We managed to hit it, very nice, and down it goes. Elekid gets to level 14, which is really nice, and Zubat gets to level 18, which is also really nice. Alright. Alright, up next is another Abra, and I think I'm not going to switch just because if this thing starts getting flashes off, it's going to get really annoying really fast. So I'm just going to... Oh, right. The flash carries over. That is disappointing. Alright, that should bring it down, and... Wait, really? That did not one-shot this thing? Hey, okay. That's a little frustrating, especially since this episode's running a little on the long side. Alright, we're gonna switch over to Croconaw, who also knows Bite, and I'm hoping we can get through a Bite without having our accuracy nerfed too terribly badly. Alright, I'd actually managed to fail Flash right there, which is really nice. Bring him down. And there should only be one more of these guys left, correct? Oh wow, it's actually a Kadabra, which is the evolved form of Abra. This one is probably capable of actually doing damage to us. And for whatever reason, it's underleveled. because Abra evolves into Kadabra at level 16. Not sure what this guy's idea is. Now the fun thing is, I believe Kadabra actually learns Confusion, which is its first damaging move, upon evolution at 16, so I'm wondering if a level 15 Kadabra would even have it. Interesting stuff. Anywho, right up here, trainer tips. Pokemon stats vary even within the same species. Their stats may be similar at first. However, differences will become pronounced as the Pokemon grow. That is basically an indirect reference to effort values and individual values. Anyway, right here we have a fruit-bearing tree with Ice Berry, which heals burns. Burns are an incredibly rare status condition that you're probably not going to be running into too terribly often, and I have discussed before, so I'm not going to be picking that up because I feel it's not necessary, but I am going to point out that it's there. Thanks to my studies, I'm ready for any Pokemon. This is another trainer of interest that I would like to point out. This is Schoolboy Alan. Schoolboy Alan is special because if you get his phone number after you fight him, he will give you a pretty good item. Not something that I feel like I'm going to need in any capacity, but I feel like some of you might need it. Particularly if you picked up a Growlithe, which I feel like a lot of you did, because Growlithe is a very, very solid Pokemon. And Heracross is poison, because of course. Nothing can come easy, can it? Anyway, I really want to take down this Tangela quickly if I can, but unfortunately it looks like it can take hits pretty well, which is unfortunate. Alright, I think a couple more Horn attacks should bring it down, and it looks like this thing really isn't capable of doing too terribly much damage to me. Alright, Horn attack again, and one more Horn attack ought to do it, because I really want to talk about what this guy gives ya. Alright, one more Horn attack, and down goes Tangela, or Tangela, as I have actually heard people call it before, even though that's like 99% wrong. Oops, computation error. And he gives us 512 money. Darn, I study 5 hours a day too. Oh my god, dude. There's more to learning than just reading books. Reading textbooks is worthwhile every so often. When I'm reading and walking, I have to look down, so I notice items on the ground. Next time I find something, I'll give it to you. May I have your phone number? I'm going to refuse this, but he will give you Firestones every so often when he calls you up. You can use this to evolve that Growlithe that you found back in Violet City into Arcanine, and it will also make more Pokemon available to you later down the line. Oh, I thought it would be a good break to call you when I'm studying. Sorry, buddy, but my phone book is limited. I'm the flower shop's Floria. Listen, listen. When I sprinkled water on that wiggly tree, it jumped right up. It just has to be a Pokemon. I bet it would be shocked out of its disguise if you soaked it. I know, I'll tell my sis and borrow her water bottle. And off she goes. That is, believe it or not, required, which is why we came all the way here right off the bat. So, this past episode of Pokemon Crystal, we made it all the way up here back to the Wiggly Tree, and we got information about how it really, really does not like water. And next time on Pokemon Crystal, we are going to be checking out the National Park and hopefully also checking out what happens if you soak that tree. So without further ado, thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys next time.